Good afternoon. I'm going to call the 2018 City of Cleveland Charter Review Commission to order Thursday, May 24th. It is 1:34, Mercedes Cotner Committee Room. We do have some guests, so I'm trying to be as punctual as possible. Notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. The minutes have been distributed to each of the commission members. At this time, I'd ask for any additions or subtractions. No objections. So approved. And we will get into the slotted chapters for today's. First, thanks to everybody for adjusting their schedule and allowing us to go to Senior Day. It was a wonderful event, recognizing seniors from across the city and all their accomplishments. But I think we should get right into it because it's a special time and we have guests and we have a lot to talk about. Hopefully not as much in Chapter 1 as in Chapter 11, which has been previously categorized as Part A for the viewing public and to keep us on some semblance of order. Chapter 1, Powers of the City, obviously two sections, general powers and enumeration of powers, not exclusive. We have had some recommendations submitted for Part A, none of which for Chapter 1, Powers of the City. So at this time, I would just ask if any of the commission members had any questions, concerns, discussion items under Chapter 1, Powers of the City. Everybody talk at once. As has been previously considered, I didn't think there would be a lot of discussion. It's some legalese. It goes over basically, covers just about everything that we do in one great big paragraph.
And it's all from the Constitution. You're not going to
And it's from the Constitution. And, we're not going to get into run-on sentences or paragraph structure by way of charter reviews. So we're going to move off.
Huh? There's semicolons.
Right.
We're good.
The English majors in the bunch. So then we're going to move to Chapter 11, the executive branch of the City of Cleveland. We have had some recommendations submitted electronically. We have had some from staff. We will also obviously entertain any recommendations from the commission members. But any recommendations that we do consider and discuss, we're going to take a vote on. And it's going to be recorded in the permanent record of this review commission. So I'm kind of going to follow the lead of the commission if I feel as if the discussion has been exhausted, but a motion has been made to consider it and seconded, we will call the roll on a vote. If at any time a commission member feels as if they don't have enough information or they don't fully grasp the spirit of the conversation, then please just tell me. I mean, nobody's going to think any less of anybody who says, wait a minute, I don't know what you're talking about, because I do it all the time. So feel free to do that. And I think the first one that we had officially submitted was pertaining to the city record, which, right, Rachel?
Sure.
Which is section 75, outlined in the packet that was handed out 2 weeks ago. Our clerk, the clerk of city council, is not here today. She's out of town, and I asked her to meet with Rachel from our law department to go over either the recommendation that has been submitted or any other issues that need to be resolved pertaining to section 75. Rachel, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So, right, the clerk is out of town, or she would be here to discuss this section, which deals with the city record. And I realized earlier this morning that maybe some of you don't know exactly what the city record is. That's a weekly record in print or online that happens in city government and when it happens. It's all city business, city council meetings, the legislation is laid out there, committee meetings, Board of Control minutes, invitations to bid, that all is in the city record. this section, the clerk had wanted to amend to say that we don't necessarily publish the city record at this point. We compile it, we put it together. And we wanted to recognize the new technology. They didn't have emails and computers in 1914, and now they do. And we want to be able to ensure that the city record can be in electronic format. And we would provide, of course, for that it would be available to be printed upon request. So this change really is making sure that we can provide the city record in electronic format.
And what are we required to do? I know we're required to publish it, which,
We are.
what does that mean? But, and then, so we just have to do that? We just have to have it printed and available? We as a body, as a city?
We as a body have to keep the minutes of the proceedings of the city
Okay.
in one place, and that's called the city record. And we do have to make it available to the public.
Okay.
I would like to use the word compile instead of publish, because we're moving away from paper. We don't want to be seen as just publishing the city record. But we want to be able to make it available electronically, and then we can publish it if somebody wants a paper, and we can, press a button and have it printed out.
So in the clerk's opinion, and you agree that the thing that's prohibiting the city from doing that today is the word publish?
No, we're doing it today, but we want to we want to kind of bring the city, the charter into the 21st century, right? And acknowledge the fact that the electronic media is out there.
Yes.
Yes,
The city record is on our website.
the city record is, yes,
Yes.
and it's available
Pretty
weekly.
seamlessly. Right.
It's very easy to search as well. I did it regularly when I was in policy.
Okay.
You find it easy to search?
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
That's good feedback.
I don't.
I don't.
But good.
Well, additionally, just the word publish, you can still publish things online electronically.
Yes, yeah.
You're still, so it doesn't mean paper or not anymore. That is just, you're releasing it.
Yeah, you're right. We felt that compile is just a better word, because we are putting so many different, so much different information in the city record. We're putting it together, so.
I just had a quick question. Has the Office of the Clerk looked at other city councils, and is there like a standard best practice that you guys are trying to emulate in terms of digitizing the city record, making it easily searchable, as was discussed prior, putting it out in kind of an open data format? Can you kind of unpack that for us a little bit?
Yeah, we have looked at other cities and other city councils, and we are in the process of continuing to look at other cities and trying to get the best electronic format out there. We're still in the process of doing that, but the city record has been available electronically for a number of years now.
Okay.
So, and yeah, we're working our way through the best way to make it available publicly.
Thank you. Any further questions on the city record, which is section 75 of the existing charter, and the discussions on the recommendations made in the 2008 Charter Review Commission? Hearing none, I would then entertain a motion as to whether to recommend this to council.
I'm sorry, Marty. This is not what I offered today is not exactly what was offered in 2008, just so that
Right.
you understand. Yeah, okay.
But the things that the commission has reviewed prior to sitting down at this table were the 2008, it was in our packet
Right.
that we handed out.
Right.
But you should have received today a printed
Yeah, this is what we're
title,
offering for,
chapter, or section 75 city record. This is what's being formally offered for consideration by the commission.
right.
And I would entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Director Lang Henry move. Is there a second? second by, I heard Councilman Johnson first. Any discussion? Hearing none. This will be the first vote taken on a recommendation. I don't know if we have to call the roll. I think you do, because I'll look to the lawyer.
What did we do last time?
Last time
yes,
there was
let's
a
call the roll.
whole
Let's-
bracket
yeah.
of who voted for what.
Let's
who
call the
didn't.
roll.
Alan, are
ahead.
you ready to call the roll?
Yes, I can.
All right, call it.
Bill,
Yes.
Reagan, Martin, Cleveland,
Yes.
Ham,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Casey,
Yes.
Kane,
Yes.
Kenny,
Yes.
Langhammer,
Yes.
Gorman,
Yes.
Nair,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Santana,
Yes.
Benton. We have 12 yeas.
A unanimous vote.
Hey.
It's a historic.
Good way to start.
Does that
That's a good way to start.
Great, well, thank you, everybody, and I should have said, so what I'm gonna do is try to, in chapter 11, which has got a lot, I'd like to get our guests and, the recommendations that we have been, that has been formally submitted out of the way, but all the other chapters, if there's anything at any point we can talk about, I just wanted to accommodate the schedules of our, the people that have come in and the, submitted recommendations that have been handed out today. So next, I would go to city planning. I would ask, we have two, we have Director Freddie Collier, Director of City Planning, and Chris Garland, the Assistant Director of City Planning, that are here. After 2 weeks ago, we shared with them both the packet that you received and asked them to review the charter and come to the commission and bring up any issues, considerations, concerns that they have with the existing charter, as we are currently considering making recommendation for changing it. And specifically to, I'm trying to train myself to not talk about the 2008 commission that much, but they did so much and they touched so much, so I always refer back. I did make those available to the director and assistant director as well, the recommendations from 2008. So, director, assistant director, welcome to the commission. Thank you for being here. If you want to tell us a little bit about what you do and you guys do on a regular basis, let's have at it, and then we can talk about what's been recommended in the past.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Fred Collier. I'm the director of the Cleveland City Planning Commission. Joining me today is Assistant Director Chris Garland. For those of you who are not familiar with the work of the Planning Commission, we have a 7-member planning commission, 6 members appointed by the mayor, and 1 member appointed by City Council. He is sitting right next to me, Mr. Councilman McCormick. Basically, the City Planning Commission is responsible for basically making and adopting a general plan for the growth and development of the city of Cleveland. There's 4 areas in which we achieve this. 1, through engagement. 2, through regulations. That's matters of zoning, design review, and other process-related tools. The other 2 pieces is leading the community through planning initiatives at the neighborhood level and citywide level. And the other piece is advocacy. So we also act in an advocacy role. I like to think of ourselves as a fringe department because we often have to have 1 foot inside and 1 foot outside of City Hall. And what I mean by that is we have to often be advocates for the community, and we also have to be advocates for the administration to the community. So our role is very, very broad. And if you look at 76.2, it gives you the specificity of what our duties and powers are. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Great. And I know that the recommendation number 53 was on the composition of the City Planning Commission, specifically to include amend section 76 so that the 6 members of the City Planning Commission appointed by the mayor shall include 1 architect, 1 attorney, and 1 real estate or real estate development professional. Wondering if you had any thoughts on that?
So there was one issue with that we had. One, we do have an architect. Traditionally, we've always had an attorney. The last attorney that we had on board was Chairman Coyne, Anthony Coyne. We also had a real estate development professional, Mr. Fred Geis, but there were some concerns that were raised with respect to ethics because of a developer being a part of the Planning Commission who's investing in the city would often have to recuse oneself from cases that required decisioning that they may have been, engaged in that project or whatever the case may be. So that didn't work too well. So the way we do things now is really to try to have a cross-section of expertise. We have to be very mindful of people living in the city of Cleveland because that's one of the requirements that we have as an administration, that people need to be invested in the city if they're going to be making decisions about the city. So we try to calibrate a little bit. So we would like some flexibility. I think that the language being overly prescriptive could be problematic for us in a number of ways.
Great. Councilman McCormick, I wonder if you had any, being the current member, or Councilwoman Cleveland being the former member, have you ever had an issue with, like, unique skill sets on the committee? I haven't, to be honest with you, having presented different projects in front of the commission. I haven't said, man, I really wish there was a attorney here, or, you know what I mean? I really wish there was I don't think I've ever said that.
It's probably the last thing you want.
Phyllis, I'm wondering, just looking, you had years on the commission, did you ever think that a certain skill set would have added value to your decision-making on the commission?
Attorney.
As the board was composed during the time I served, I think we had a good cross-section. Again, we had the Tony Coyne, who's an attorney. We had David Bowen, who's still on the commission, who's an architect. So we had a broad cross-section of skills. And the law department has a representative who's an advisor to the Planning Commission. So, there are people on staff with the Planning Commission with the expertise. I think it's good to have some level of expertise, but honestly, I also advocate for people who are not professionals, particularly in architecture, design, it's people who live in neighborhoods with, real life common sense, everyday experience. I think that's valuable as well.
Yes.
Well, that's a very good point. Yes, Councilman.
Mr. Chair, I would just agree with everything that Councilwoman Cleveland just said, and also to the point that, we have the mayor's appointment committee on council, and I think that it's kind of their job to look at these appointments and to ensure that there's a diversity represented on the board of all different people and skill sets of whatever they may be. So I would just agree with that, I think.
Great.
And Marty, and just to add, to that point, I would agree with the director's recommendation that the selections not be so prescribed, so that, there needs to be flexibility, I think, and however we choose to do it. But the director's a professional, and he should have the discretion to.
And historically speaking, it's been the mission of the director and the mayor's appointment committee to get that diversity of thought.
Right.
And there's been no red flags that have jumped off that I've seen, or
Right.
the council members that are sitting. So I agree, but again, we're thinking charter, we're thinking
I love it.
permanence, we're thinking for the next 10 years, who knows who's going to be in what seats, and that's kind of the thought that we need to put on. If there's a way to make it better, then we should talk about it, but it doesn't sound like, at least I can't come up with a way to make it better at this point.
Do we know what the original rationale for including this prescriptive language was in 2008? I think it'd be helpful for other new commission members to get that context.
Yeah, I don't, Phyllis, do you recall, or?
Well, it says at the bottom, the reason was the amendment requires the inclusion of appointees with applicable professional expertise. So they were trying to beef up the expertise, if you can glean from the reason that was stated in their report.
Okay.
Yes, so, and I changed my mind.
Through the chair to Director Collier, curious how the staggered terms have worked through the Planning Commission. Do you think that that's something that's beneficial, or is that something that should be looked at?
Wow, that's like asking, should we have term limits or not? So No, I'm not, no comment. I'm just being facetious. So I think for us, during my tenure here at least, Mr. Chairman, I think we have done pretty well with respect to the terms. I think there's been some, instances where we may have had some lag with respect to appointment timing that had put us, in a quandary, but we worked through those pretty efficiently. And I think the administration tries to be extremely careful as to who it appoints. But I don't think that there's been any major issues that I would highlight that should concern us at all. I just don't.
And on that point, Mr. Chairman, something that chairing the mayor's appointment committee that I learned was that even if somebody's term expires, they still sit until they're either reappointed or actions taken to remove them and replace them with somebody. So there should really, I get what you're saying, but we should still always have a quorum there, and if we don't, it wouldn't be from somebody not being appointed to that seat, even if a term expires, which I've learned that over this last couple of months, that they still stay on the board until action's taken. If that makes sense to you. So it's not like somebody's term ends January 1st, there's a meeting January 2nd, and that individual, if they haven't been reappointed, or if they haven't been thanked for their service and appoint somebody else, that they wouldn't serve, they wouldn't show up, because legally, more technically, they're supposed to.
So that appointed person still has the power and authority.
Exactly.
Even though their terms
And which is
technically
something that
expired.
we-
But I think the question, at least, we have had vacancies on the planning commission.
Sure.
I mean, we have, and it has been for an extended amount of time. I don't know how long. I mean, it has affected some people more than others in front of the commission. So is this taking us down a discussion about a window to fill a vacancy? Because how important it is to have a quorum, the important work that the commission does, and I'm not, right, I'm not being critical of anybody or anything. I know it takes time to find good, qualified people who are willing to serve the city of Cleveland for very little, if not no, compensation. And the meetings go on forever, but is that something to consider? Would it help, would it put the fire under the administration, whoever it is at whatever time, to fill a vacancy if the charter read, or if the citizens of the city said fill a vacancy on boards and commissions within 6 months? Would that handcuff the administration? Would it incentivize the administration to more fully engage potential candidates to fill the vacancy? And I just thought of it from your question, Tom, and I apologize if I went down to a whole totally different track, but in my experience, and it's been limited, and it has not affected me or the citizens of Ward 17, is that if there's vacancies that are not filled, then you have quorum issues, then you have getting work done issues. Again, I'm not trying to be, I have no specific project sitting in this dome, but I could see it happening. If we're in an election year, if there's a struggle between council and the administration, and all of a sudden they're sitting on appointments and they're not appointing anybody, or the chairman is being obstinate and not appointing anybody, it's entirely possible. Right. To create a world of vacancies where they can't get a quorum and can't get work done. Director Lankin.
I just want to point out, for the Planning Commission, the current charter does provide for alternate members, so you shouldn't be in a position where, even if someone's term ends, where there isn't someone available to fill that spot because of the provision for alternate members. It provides that 2 alternate members are appointed by the mayor with the approval of council. The alternate members may serve in place of a non-council member of the Planning Commission who is unable to act or is self-disqualified because of personal interests, and shall then have all the powers of the members and shall receive compensation for those, just to
So there
point
is a
that out.
bullpen. Right. And again, I haven't seen it happen. But Tom, you?
No, that's originally my question was based around how effective you think it is to have 2 4 6-year terms, right, and how that has worked. But I think that that is an important line to think about because, and not just with the City Planning Commission, though I know we're here specifically to talk about that, but I have noticed it at landmarks at times and other boards and commissions where sometimes vacancies do drag on. And I do think it may be something worth discussing at least, to have some sort of codified method of this is how long we have to fill vacancies when they come online.
For any board or commission, right? Interesting. I'm wondering if this has been discussed. And again, there's nothing I'm pointing to say that we have a problem, but I could see the potentiality for a problem, having been here. So, Director, we're putting it on you, but I think we will talk about it some more, because, again, it's not specific to what we gave you for homework, but we're an open book, and it is the charter, and it's one living, breathing document. So I'm going to ask Rachel to write it down, and we could do some research and get a member of the administration maybe here next time, or when we have a slow day to talk about that. Thank you.
Time limit for filling vacancies.
Right, on boards and commissions.
Okay.
So, Director Collier, I know we also had commission makeup, and you said that you read through 76-1, 76-2. The one, and I apologize, but Rick Horvath, who is still an employee, was here 2 weeks ago and made a recommendation
54.
to look at the mandatory referral.
Oh, okay.
And that is your world. And I know it's on the packet, page
Yeah.
8.
Item number 56.
Yeah. So while we have you here, I'm curious to hear your opinion of, or how you feel the mandatory referral process is administered.
So from my perspective, I think the mandatory referral process as is necessary. One thing that concerned me with the proposed language that I read in 76-3 was two things, where it says except for, and then the word substantially. That's a very ambiguous term with respect to this. So it says, except for the maintenance or repair of an existing public improvement that does not substantially alter the exterior conditions of the property or substantially alter public areas within public buildings, authorize public funding of development projects that change land use or the exterior conditions of the property. So everything underlined is basically what they're looking to amend. And as I read 76-3, it's much more broad. You know, I had this conversation